don't think that I would call it a whirlwind in terms of our relationship. Obviously, there have been layers attached to how public it has become after we had a good 5-6 months almost with just privacy, which was amazing.
Fresh DNA-related claims have reignited one of the most explosive royal controversies yet, placing Tom Bower and Lady Colin Campbell at the center of a storm that reportedly sparked outrage from Harry and Meghan. As old questions resurface and fierce debate spreads across headlines and social media, supporters and critics are once again clashing over what is fact, speculation, and unanswered mystery. Could this latest controversy change public opinion, or is it another chapter in an endless royal battle? So, what do you think? Whose side do you believe? Share your thoughts in the comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Royal storm suddenly turns explosive. Royal watchers barely had time to absorb the latest headlines before an entirely new wave of DNA-related claims pushed one of the monarchy's most divisive controversies back into public view. What had once circulated mainly among commentators and online discussions suddenly spread across news reports, social media, and television debates, drawing fresh attention to long-standing questions surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. This time, however, the conversation unfolded with unusual speed, pulling two familiar royal commentators directly into the center of the storm and transforming an already sensitive subject into an even larger public spectacle. At the heart of the renewed debate were British investigative author Tom Bower and royal commentator Lady Colin Campbell. Both had previously spoken about the Sussexes through books, interviews, and public appearances, but renewed attention to their earlier comments reignited widespread discussion. Their observations, opinions, and interpretations were revisited by audiences who had either overlooked them before or were encountering them for the first time. Almost overnight, old material became new again, creating a cycle of renewed speculation that spread far beyond traditional royal reporting. Reports soon suggested that Harry and Meghan were deeply unhappy with the controversy returning to public attention. Although the couple had spent years trying to move beyond earlier disputes while building a new life outside royal duties, familiar accusations once again dominated headlines. Rather than focusing on their recent projects or charitable work, public conversation shifted back toward unresolved questions, leaving supporters and critics locked in another fierce debate over what should be believed and what remained unproven. Unlike previous rounds of criticism that often centered on family relationships, media interviews, or commercial ventures, this controversy carried a different weight because it touched on deeply personal matters while also raising broader public questions. Yet, despite the dramatic headlines, it remained important to distinguish between documented facts, published commentary, and unverified allegations. No publicly verified DNA evidence had been released to support the claims driving the latest discussion. Instead, the debate grew from competing interpretations, public statements, and commentary offered by well-known royal observers. That distinction became increasingly important as more people joined the conversation. Some argued that respected commentators deserved to have their observations examined seriously, especially when they based their arguments on published research or publicly available information. Others insisted that speculation should never be mistaken for proof, and warned against allowing repeated claims to replace verified evidence. The disagreement itself became almost as significant as the original controversy, revealing how differently people interpreted the same public events. As reactions intensified, one reality became impossible to ignore. The story was no longer simply about Harry and Meghan, nor was it solely about Tom Bower or Lady Colin Campbell. It had evolved into a larger battle over credibility, public perception, and competing narratives. With emotions rising on every side and fresh attention breathing new life into old questions, the controversy appeared far from over, leaving many wondering where the next revelation or rebuttal might emerge. But why did these two voices become the center of such a fierce royal storm? Were their claims truly driven by evidence or something deeper? And what happens when hidden details begin challenging everything the public thought they knew about this explosive controversy? Let's unravel the mystery. Credibility fuels royal firestorm. Again, as the controversy gathered momentum, attention gradually shifted away from the DNA-related claims themselves and toward the two people whose names appeared alongside nearly every headline. British investigative author Tom Bower and royal commentator Lady Colin Campbell were no longer simply offering opinions about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Instead, they had become central figures in a growing public debate that questioned why their comments continued to shape conversations long after they were first made. Their influence alone became part of the story, prompting many observers to ask why these voices carried such remarkable weight. Tom Bower's reputation had not been built through royal reporting alone. Long before writing about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, he had established himself as an investigative biographer, known for examining powerful public figures. Throughout his career, he focused on gathering information from interviews, documents, and individuals connected to the events he described. His books often attracted attention because they challenged carefully managed public images, making supporters view him as a determined investigator, while critics questioned whether his conclusions sometimes leaned too heavily toward controversy. Regardless of opinion, his work rarely passed unnoticed. When Bower published his book discussing Harry and Meghan, the response reflected that established reputation. Readers did not simply dismiss it as another collection of rumors circulating online. Instead, many treated it as a carefully researched investigation, even while others strongly disputed its conclusions. The book quickly became part of a much wider conversation, encouraging journalists, commentators, and members of the public to revisit earlier events through the lens of Bower's findings. His work transformed existing debates into renewed headlines, ensuring that discussions surrounding the Sussexes remained firmly in the public spotlight. Lady Colin Campbell reached audiences through a different path, yet her impact proved equally significant. For years, she had appeared across television programs, interviews, and online platforms discussing royal affairs in remarkable detail. Unlike anonymous social media accounts that often disappear after making sensational claims, she consistently attached her own name and reputation to every statement she made. That visibility gave her supporters confidence that she believed in her conclusions, while critics argued that her outspoken style sometimes encouraged unnecessary controversy. Even so, her commentary rarely failed to attract widespread attention. The contrast between these two figures became one of the defining features of the unfolding controversy. Bower approached stories through lengthy investigative writing, while Lady Campbell relied on regular public commentary and direct discussion. Their methods differed, yet both reached similar audiences searching for explanations behind royal headlines. Whenever their observations appeared to overlap, many people viewed the coincidence as meaningful, while others warned that agreement alone should never be mistaken for proof. That divide only intensified public curiosity. As discussion continued to spread, the focus increasingly expanded beyond Harry and Meghan themselves. The credibility, motives, and methods of Tom Bower and Lady Colin Campbell became subjects of intense scrutiny in their own right. Whether viewed as determined investigators or controversial commentators, they had undeniably become influential participants in one of the royal family's most persistent public debates, ensuring the story continued growing rather than quietly fading away. But as the pressure surrounding Harry and Meghan continues to grow, a deeper mystery begins to emerge. What was happening behind closed doors? Why did their response spark even more questions? And what revelation could change the entire conversation before the world sees everything? Stay with us. Pressure mounts behind palace walls. As public attention intensified, the spotlight gradually shifted away from Tom Bower and Lady Colin Campbell and landed squarely on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. What had started as renewed discussion surrounding earlier claims quickly evolved into a fresh wave of scrutiny that reached television broadcasts, newspaper columns, online platforms, and countless social media conversations. Every new headline appeared to revive an old controversy, placing the Sussexes under pressure once again, and making it increasingly difficult for them to move beyond disputes that many believed had already faded from public focus. Reports soon emerged suggesting that the couple viewed the renewed attention with deep frustration. After years of attempting to establish a new chapter outside royal life through charitable work, business ventures, documentaries, and public appearances, they once again found themselves facing questions connected to earlier allegations rather than current achievements. Instead of conversations focusing on their latest projects, attention returned to familiar debates, creating the impression that the past continued to shape their public image, regardless of how far they tried to move forward. The speed with which older stories resurfaced surprised many observers. Archived interviews, previous media reports, published books, and commentary from years earlier suddenly began circulating widely again. Clips that had once attracted modest attention were shared across platforms as though they were entirely new discoveries. Each repost encouraged fresh reactions, bringing new audiences into discussions that had previously involved only dedicated royal followers. The controversy no longer belonged solely to longtime commentators. It had become part of a much broader public conversation. Online discussion intensified the situation even further. Supporters of Harry and Meghan argued that the couple had become recurring targets of speculation built on interpretation rather than verified evidence. Critics responded that unresolved questions naturally continued attracting public interest whenever new commentary appeared. As both sides defended their positions, the debate became increasingly emotional, with each development producing thousands of competing opinions that spread faster than official responses ever could. Managing public perception under those circumstances presented a difficult challenge. Every statement carried the risk of extending the story, while every refusal to comment allowed others to continue interpreting events without direct contradiction. Public relations experts have often noted that silence can sometimes reduce controversy, but in highly public disputes, it can also create space for further speculation. That dynamic appeared to shape much of the conversation surrounding the Sussexes, as observers debated whether remaining quiet represented a strategic decision or simply reflected a desire to avoid giving additional attention to disputed claims. At the center of the growing tension remained an important distinction. Despite dramatic headlines and widespread online discussion, the renewed controversy continued to revolve around competing narratives rather than publicly verified DNA evidence. The disagreement was driven by interpretation, commentary, and public perception, not by confirmed scientific findings released into the public domain. Even so, repeated discussion gave the issue a life of its own, making it increasingly difficult to separate established facts from persistent speculation. With every passing day, the controversy expanded beyond individual claims and became a larger struggle over reputation, credibility, and public trust. The deeper the debate spread into mainstream conversation, the more difficult it became for any side to control the narrative, suggesting that the most significant consequences might still lie ahead. And as the lines between evidence and interpretation begin to blur, a deeper mystery emerges. What hidden details were overlooked? Which voices shaped the story behind closed doors? And what revelation could challenge everything audiences thought they knew before the final truth is revealed? Let's find out. The evidence battle behind headlines. As the controversy continued to expand, the most important question became harder to ignore. Where did documented information end and interpretation begin? The renewed debate surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, Tom Bower, and Lady Colin Campbell was no longer driven only by the claims being discussed, but by how people understood the information presented around them. Books, interviews, photographs, public appearances, and commentary all became pieces of a much larger puzzle, with different audiences reaching very different conclusions. At the center of the discussion was the challenge of separating confirmed facts from assumptions. Tom Bower's writing and Lady Colin Campbell's public comments encouraged many observers to revisit past events, but the conclusions drawn from those discussions remained a matter of debate. Supporters believed their questions deserved attention because they were connected to publicly available information. Critics argued that questions alone did not automatically create proof, and that speculation could easily become confused with reality when repeated often enough. The controversy became even more complicated because public stories surrounding the royal family are often built through carefully managed statements and limited information. When certain details are unavailable or not fully explained, audiences naturally begin searching for answers. Some interpret missing information as a reason for further investigation, while others believe privacy should prevent every personal detail from becoming a public discussion. That disagreement created the foundation for much of the ongoing tension. Timeline questions also played a major role in shaping the conversation. When events are reviewed years later, small differences in interviews, reports, or public recollections can attract significant attention. Supporters of one viewpoint may see those differences as meaningful, while others may view them as normal human inconsistencies that occur when events are retold over time. Without additional verified evidence, those interpretations remain separate perspectives rather than established conclusions. The influence of media coverage added another layer to the situation. Headlines often focus on the most dramatic parts of a controversy, while the surrounding context receives less attention. As a result, audiences may encounter fragments of information without seeing the complete picture. Social media can accelerate this process even further, allowing opinions and theories to spread quickly before all available facts are carefully examined. For Harry and Meghan, the continuing discussion represented another challenge in controlling their public image. For Bower and Lady Campbell, it placed greater attention on the responsibility that comes with making public observations about highly recognizable figures. Both sides found themselves connected to a debate where reputation, credibility, and interpretation were constantly being tested. Ultimately, the controversy revealed a much larger issue beyond the individual claims themselves. It showed how easily public narratives can become divided when information is incomplete and emotions are high. As the debate continued, the difference between evidence and interpretation remained the key factor determining how people viewed the entire situation. The ongoing dispute, therefore, remained less about one single allegation and more about how audiences decide what deserves belief, what requires proof, and what should remain uncertain over time. Yet as the media storm grows, what hidden consequences are waiting beyond the headlines? Could the next revelation completely change how audiences view this royal dispute? And who will survive when the battle enters its most unpredictable chapter yet, with secrets still waiting to surface? Keep watching. Facts, doubts, and hidden narratives. As the controversy surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle continued to grow, attention turned toward a more complicated question. Where did documented information end and interpretation begin? The renewed debate surrounding DNA-related claims was not driven by publicly released scientific evidence, but by discussions, opinions, and questions raised by commentators, including Tom Bower and Lady Colin Campbell. As audiences searched for answers, separating confirmed facts from speculation became increasingly difficult. The modern royal media landscape often blurs the line between reporting and interpretation. Books, interviews, photographs, and public statements can all become pieces of a much larger conversation, with different people drawing different conclusions from the same material. In this case, previous comments, past events, and old reports were brought back into focus, creating a new wave of discussion around issues that had already generated strong opinions. Tom Bower's investigative approach and Lady Colin Campbell's public commentary played a major role in shaping how many people viewed the controversy. Their supporters argued that they were raising questions based on information available to the public, while critics questioned whether some conclusions went beyond what the evidence could actually prove. That disagreement became one of the central reasons the story continued attracting attention. One of the biggest challenges in the debate was the way timelines and public accounts were examined. Events that had once been accepted without widespread discussion were revisited and analyzed from different perspectives. Small details from interviews, announcements, or public appearances became subjects of intense examination, with some observers believing they revealed unanswered questions, while others argued they were being interpreted without enough context. The spread of competing narratives was accelerated by social media, where short clips, opinions, and commentary could reach millions within hours. A single statement could be separated from its original setting and viewed through a completely different lens. Supporters and critics of Harry and Meghan often approached the same information with very different expectations, making agreement almost impossible. Selective information also became a major factor in shaping public perception. When only certain details are highlighted, audiences may form conclusions before seeing the full picture. This made the controversy more complicated because every side claimed to be focusing on important evidence while accusing the other side of ignoring key facts. However, the most important distinction remained clear. Allegations and interpretations are not the same as verified proof. Public discussions can raise questions, but answers require reliable evidence that can be independently examined. Without that evidence, the controversy remains a debate shaped by opinions, perspectives, and unanswered questions. As the conversation continued, the focus shifted from a single claim to a larger issue involving trust, reputation, and the power of public narratives. The ongoing debate surrounding Harry, Meghan, Tom Bower, and Lady Colin Campbell demonstrated how quickly uncertainty can grow when information, interpretation, and emotion collide. Yet the search for clarity remained at the heart of the controversy, leaving many still questioning what was truly known and what remained unresolved over time. When legal battles enter the spotlight, deeper questions emerge. Where does public criticism cross the line into something more serious? Why do some claims trigger courtroom responses while others fade away? And what hidden details could reshape the conversation next in ways few expect? Stay glued. Legal battles shape new questions. As the controversy surrounding Harry and Meghan, Tom Bower, and Lady Colin Campbell continued to expand, the discussion began moving into a more serious area: the role of law, accountability, and responsibility in public disputes. While the debate remained centered on commentary and allegations rather than verified DNA evidence, attention increasingly turned toward how such claims are handled when they involve public figures with a history of challenging media coverage through legal action. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have previously shown that they are willing to use the legal system when they believe they have been treated unfairly. Over the years, the couple has taken action against several media organizations, arguing that certain reports crossed the line between public interest and unacceptable intrusion. These legal battles demonstrated that they were not afraid to challenge stories they considered inaccurate or harmful, making their approach to criticism a frequent subject of public discussion. Because of that history, some observers began questioning why certain statements received legal responses while others remained part of public debate. Supporters of the couple argued that not every accusation deserves attention, and that responding to every controversial comment could create even more publicity. Critics, however, suggested that silence could allow speculation to continue growing. This difference in perspective became another major point of disagreement surrounding the controversy. The legal system, however, operates differently from public opinion. In cases involving defamation, the central issue is not whether a statement creates anger or controversy, but whether it can be proven to be a false statement, presented as fact, that causes measurable harm. Opinions, interpretations, and commentary are often treated differently from direct factual claims. This distinction became especially important in a situation where public discussions involved books, interviews, and personal analysis. The difference between criticism and a legally actionable statement created a complicated environment. Commentators such as Tom Bower and Lady Colin Campbell presented their views publicly, but public reaction alone does not determine whether a legal case exists. A courtroom requires evidence, documentation, and clear standards that go beyond disagreement or public frustration. This reality made the debate more complex because many viewers approach the issue emotionally, while legal decisions depend on specific facts. The conversation also highlighted a broader challenge facing modern public figures. In an age where information spreads instantly, celebrities and institutions often find themselves balancing privacy, reputation, and transparency. Public figures may want protection from harmful claims, but they also operate in a world where scrutiny comes with increased visibility. As questions surrounding the controversy continued, the legal dimension added another layer to an already complicated story. The focus was no longer only on what people believed, but on what could actually be demonstrated through evidence and legal standards. The ongoing debate revealed the difficult space between public opinion and courtroom reality, leaving many observers wondering whether future developments would bring clarity or simply create another chapter in the continuing battle over truth, reputation, and accountability. Just as the battle over truth enters a new chapter, one question remains: who will ultimately control the story? Could hidden revelations change everything people believe? And when the next twist emerges, will anyone be prepared for the consequences waiting beyond the headlines and beyond? Stay tuned. Truth, trust, and royal narratives. As the controversy surrounding Harry and Meghan, Tom Bower, and Lady Colin Campbell reached its final stage, the debate had grown into something much larger than a single disputed claim. What began as renewed discussion about DNA-related allegations had transformed into a wider struggle involving credibility, reputation, privacy, and public trust. Across different audiences, people were no longer only asking what had been said, but also who deserved to be believed, and why certain narratives continued gaining attention. The lasting impact of the controversy extended to everyone involved. For Harry and Meghan, repeated public debates created another challenge in protecting their image and maintaining control over their personal story. For Tom Bower and Lady Colin Campbell, the attention placed even greater focus on their methods, sources, and responsibilities as public commentators. Each side faced supporters who defended their position and critics who questioned their motives. The division among audiences became one of the most noticeable features of the discussion. Some viewed Bower and Lady Campbell as voices willing to raise difficult questions that others avoided. Others believed the controversy showed how easily speculation could grow when sensitive subjects involved famous people. Between these opposing views, the conversation continued expanding, creating an environment where facts, interpretations, and emotions often became closely connected. The issue also raised deeper questions about transparency and privacy. Public figures often face demands for openness because their lives are followed by millions, yet they also have personal boundaries that many believe should be respected. Finding the balance between public interest and private matters became one of the most complicated parts of the debate. The disagreement was not simply about one allegation, but about how much information the public should expect from people living under constant attention. Future developments, whether through new statements, additional information, or possible legal actions, could influence how the controversy is remembered. However, the ongoing discussion demonstrated that public perception can be shaped long before every question receives a clear answer. Once competing narratives take hold, changing opinions can become far more difficult than creating them. Ultimately, The story surrounding Harry, Meghan, Tom Bower, and Lady Colin Campbell reflected a broader battle over control of information and public image. The controversy continued because different groups interpreted the same events in different ways, with each side believing it understood the larger truth. Whether future revelations bring clarity or create more questions remains uncertain. What became clear was that the debate had moved beyond a single accusation and into a conversation about trust, accountability, and the power of storytelling. In the modern media landscape, reputation can be shaped by evidence, opinion, and public reaction all at once. As the controversy continued, the central question remained not only what happened, but how history would eventually judge the competing narratives surrounding one of the most closely watched royal disputes. The answer may depend on future events and whether new evidence or explanations emerge to reshape the public understanding of this continuing royal controversy. OUTR. So what do you think? Has this controversy become more about competing narratives than proven facts? Or should more transparency settle the debate? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates.